Hello, this video is to assist professor on how to import course to D2L Brightspace. So I'm going to be demonstrating this by walking through some processes. Though my course is already set up, but I'll be kind of showcasing the steps that you have to take. So this course page was generated when it was set up on LMS, and it was completely empty. There was no any content on the page, which is for 2026. Now, if I want to start developing contents like materials they need to study each week and assessment, I don't have to do all of those things from the scratch because I've taught this course before or someone has taught this course before. So what I should do instead would be to import the materials that I've used in previous semester to this course page. In as much as I'm going to be talking through the process here, I'm not going to do certain things like going to the grade because that may review student's name, which I would not like to disclose on this video. So to import your previous course, I'll go to course admin. And in course admin, you will go to import or export copy components. And once you are there, you need to search for the course you want to import to this current semester. So with that being data analytics for accounting, we used to teach this course in the final year of accounting, but recently we changed the curriculum. Now we are teaching the course in the third year, but the materials are still very much the same. So in this case, the previous one was 471, and it's 471. Then I'll search for that. And you could see the list of the courses I've taught in the past, how many times I've taught it in previous year. And basically, I'm going to copy the most recent one, which is for 2025. I'll select that, and then I'll click on Add Selected. So now here's my course, which I'm going to import. Don't import everything yet because that's going to cost you a lot of problems. Especially, you don't want to import your previous course component from your Connect or McGraw Hill. Instead, what you should do not import your previous assessment because that will be for the previous year. And that will create a lot of files on your system and a lot of problems. So what I will do, I will avoid doing that because I've created the assessment information on McGraw Hill. I will rather import that fresh from the scratch. So what I have done here, I have clicked on this, which is this course, which I've selected. Now I want to copy all components. I'll rather copy selected components. You could always come back here and I'll do the same if you want the other components later on. So I'll choose select components, say yes. Now right here, you could see once you click here, it will copy all the components. But when you click here, you could deselect the components you do not want. For example, I don't want to copy the external links from McGraw Hill, which I've used in the past. And then I'll go through all of this list that I don't want to copy to the current semester. But the only thing I don't want to copy is basically the external links, whether from PNC or from McGraw Hill, is the same process. Then I'll click continue, and basically that will import all of this course. So I have already done this in my course, so I won't go through that process. But once you've done this, you go back to your D2L, go back to your contents. You are going to find all your course material arranged week by week, or the way you arrange it, whether by Moodle or other ways. Now, once you import those materials, you probably won't have things like Connect here because I included this. So for me to import my Connect, I'll just probably just add one more tab, which is going to be McGraw Hill Connect, and then you type that. Then click Enter. Okay, so that will basically add additional tab right here. So that is where you have to import your McGraw Hill into. So you have to create that folder. I did it that way to make it so easy to access. Some faculties might just have them, but you have to come through this existing activity to be able to do that. But creating this folder here will make it easy for me to be able to import McGraw Hill course into this particular folder. And basically, it also make it so easy for students to be able to come here and access the information as well. Now, on your connects, if I go to this connect, I've already imported my McGraw. So when you create this tab, in your case, you might find out here. So to import your McGraw materials, you go to the existing activities, and then right here you'll find McGraw Connect LTIA. In the past, they used to have so many options then, and some of them do not really work or could be very problematic. But I think this year they were much better with their system, so it's easy to import those materials. In the past, you could probably be required to go through the external learning tools to be able to import McGraw. So there are various ways, and if you don't go through the right ways, it could create a lot of duplication of files or broken links that will never work with your system. So I already connected my course. Once you click this, you kind of follow through all the processes and it takes you to McGraw page and it asks you to import the course. Now I'm going to go straight to my McGraw and show you how you set up your course in that McGraw. So click on orientation, that'll take me to that page. So my orientation is basically some sessions that help students to understand how to use Connect for students who may have not used Connect in the past. So right here, this is my course, which I set up for fall 2026. But if I go through all my courses here, assuming that course was not previously selected, what I would have not needed to do would be to create a course. From here, you could import your previous course and then kind of modify it. Like this previous one I taught in previous year for data analytics in 2025, basically I duplicate that, but again, I made a lot of changes to it for the current year. So this is my current course for this current year, which is already imported here on Connect. And here on Connect, you can find all the assessments are here. So what I would do, typically, I will include all of these assessments to each of these weeks. So students don't really have to go through any hassle to look for these assessments. Each week, they know exactly what to do, and then they know what assignment links to that week. And they could always go to their calendar as well. So if you go to course admin, I'll go back to my brain afterwards, just a moment. Just want to demonstrate how they could view what is due. So they could go to calendar from here. And right here on the calendar, they could see what assessment is due, what due dates. So they kind of arrange sequentially based on the due date for each of the assessments. You might not see some assessment here yet. Those are the assessment that I will create on D2L later. These are not McGraw assessments, such as the projects they're going to be working on. They have about 3 projects, and they also have presentations. Those are D2L assessment, but they also go into the grades and of course they go into the students' transcript as well. So right here on McGraw, here's my course, as you could see. We have the connect orientation, table of contents, chapter videos. So I have exams, chapter 1. For chapter 1, I have exam for chapter 2. The due dates are very clear and very straightforward. It's the same due date you'll find here or you'll find in the connect sections of the LMX. Okay, so I go all the way through. But one thing that I want to show you guys quickly would be how to set up your exams. I don't have any exams here that I could use. Maybe how to create one just to demonstrate. My exams here are already set and they'll be reviewed. So I would just use it for this demonstration for exam integrity purposes. But again, let me see if I could pause this video, create one exam, and then we could use that as a demonstration of how the new interface for McGraw Connect works. All right, so I decide that we just create one assessment from the scratch. So when you come here, you click on create assignments on this interface, create assignments. And in that assignment, you could name it as exam or set it as exam in the end. So you see those options to do that. So I'll go to the question banks and create your questions. And so right here, I have chapter one. I'm going to use chapter one as an example, just to show you those important settings, and the rest are just kind of follow through. So right here, if we go to chapter one, you click on this option here, and that takes you to the test bank. You could choose question from the test bank, or you could just potentially create your own question, which in some cases I prefer to do to create my own questions. In some cases also, when I find the question bank reliable, depending on the materials I use, I could use the question banks. The problem with the question banks is sometimes they can be dated. So creating your own question is probably the best, given your learning outcome for that particular course, because the textbook can be very broad in terms of what they cover, but the creating your questions tends to focus more on the learning outcome you want to assess. So preferably that would be one option. But the other options, just for demonstration reasons, I'll come here and I'll say chapter one, and perhaps these are various questions static, which means it won't be dynamic. I could use this multi-choice question for example. So when you click on that, I'll basically add this to my question if I'm going to be interested in this kind of question. Okay. So the interesting way to do this, you could create multiple questions at the same time instead of choosing each of those questions. So depending on how many questions you want in your assessment from this session, you go to the filter here. And from the filter, depending on how you want it to be graded, whether you want it graded manually or automatically, you will see that option here, gradable. You choose that option so that it could give you selected questions that are either automatically graded or manually graded. And then you could also choose the level of difficulties and many other options here. You can kind of walk through these filters. The AI CPA here, I like this because sometimes it helps us to focus on focusing on those AI CPA said type of questions or expectations, which is going to help a lot in terms of preparing the students for AI CPA exam as well. Okay, so once you've said this, you click just below here, you find apply. Click on apply, and basically that is it. Then it's going to show you questions related to that. So instead of adding multiple questions, I don't want to do all of those processes. Once you come here, you could choose add question. Once you've done that filter, you come here and say add question, and it shows you multiple questions from there. Okay, so it shows you multiple questions and the expected learning objective for each of those questions. And then you could select the specific number of questions you want from there, which are going to be included in the assessment. And once you've done those questions added, let me just add one of those questions manually, because you could also add question from here, just manually. Once you have those questions added, you have this option here, which says actions. So in this action, one of the things you could do with it is to set a point. So when you click on this draw the arrow, then it says set points. So as you could see, it sets 10 points for this simple question. This should actually be 0.5 or 1 point. So what you can do is to change that. When you click on set points, basically brings you here. You could either set points for the entire assessment. For example, you could say 2 for each questions, and then that's kind of allocate points to the entire assessment. So what you do in that case, you type the number of points here. If the number of points for the entire assessment is 100, you type 100 here, and then you confirm. If you want to set point for each of the assessments, you could come here and I say by question. And when you say by question, you type in the amount of points that is related to that specific question. If it's essay writing, for example, you could say 5 points for the essay, and then scroll down and select the questions you want that 5 points to apply to, and then click confirm. And once you come here, perform the X, so you have to select this question, then confirm. Once you confirm this, And as you add those points to the questions, you see the total number of points for the entire assessment from here. And once you've done that, you just basically follow through, next, 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 and then you assign. But when you go to next, there are multiple other things you could do, like setting the assessment release time, number of attempts. You could choose the number of attempts from here. Feedback to students. You could set the feedback to students, the time for the feedback. If the exam is going to be 48 hours window open for students to complete it online, you want the feedback or the correct answers to be released to the students after 48 hours and not before that, so that they don't have to share or speculate on that correct answer. So those kind of information, you have access to them. So set time limit is how much time you want for this assessment. For example, if this is a 1 hour assessment, then you set 60 minutes. Just going to allocate time to all the questions, but the total assessment time is what you have here. You could also scramble the question so that the question kind of move around, so you know what that is. So I'll leave that options, but of course I use that as well. So you go to next. Apply this setting to our assessments in your system. When you click on this, apply this setting to um, this assessment only, is going to apply to this particular assessment. But if you click on this, which is apply as a default setting to all assessment of this type, like exams or homework, it's going to do the same for all the assessments that you have. So once you choose this, you may also want to choose this, which is existing assessment that you have, and then continue. So I'm not going to choose that option. So in this case, I'll go next. So I just wanted to apply to this assessment only, just for demonstration purposes. And then right here, you set the dates in which this assessment should be available to the students, and then the date in which this assessment should be closed, or the due date, and then you set the time. And then you basically come down here and sign. Now, if you were to add proctoring to this assessment, if I go back to the assessment setting here, so right here, you could see the proctoring, and then you set up the proctoring that you want. You have to be careful with the proctoring because there are some elements that you may have to subscribe to, but they are very general proctoring processes that are very standard for most exams, and you have access to that proctoring option here. So this is where I'm going to stop on this video, and I hope it helps many professors as they set up their course for this semester.